Hi, welcome to EDSC 550, Social and Cultural Competencies. This week we're talking about chapters 7 and 8, and the book gave us a lot of applications to equity. So in the book, we talked about um, the lessons that were learned from the field. And so there was a couple of things that the author highlighted going out and applying some of these techniques. So, what the first one was gathering support for your equity work by incorporating community building and fellowship. The visibility of your work for equity is important. So, just making sure that everybody gets an opportunity to see and you build through your fellowships and through your communities. Using curriculum that has been successfully implemented as a starting place. We always talk about evidence based, data driven practices. So we want to make sure that we start with a successful curriculum that already introduces equity and inclusion, and we want to make sure that we use it. Don't allow our fears to impede and failures to impede on the importance of this work. So we will fail. As we know, we're not always going to have the right words, the right dynamics for our particular um, interruption of racism. I mean, we're going to hear things from students that will catch us off guard. And what we want to do is kind of develop some genuine responses to when those situations occur. Like, for instance, that is a really thought provoking idea that you said that. And does everybody know what thought provoking means? It means that we stop, think about it, and pause about how we feel um, based on that whatever the person said. So when we use strategies like that, they're sincere, they're genuine, they allow the students to incorporate their emotions into different responses that we may hear. And we get the students who may have laughed at what the other child said because it sounded funny, but also to get them to say, well, I understand that that's the way it makes you feel, or that's what you've heard. So now let's explore that a little bit more. Challenging the status quo of systems and processes in your district. This is really difficult because this is what the world is going through in society right now. We're challenging the status quo. We actually know that our country was built on the concept of privilege, white privilege. And so now we're all looking at it from a different lens and saying, how can we make our society more equitable, more inclusive to all people? And then empowering students to be the change that is needed in their school and incorporating feeder schools and community organizations to impact. So just working collaboratively with a group of people in order to do that. Using data to identify students who may be underserved in your school and implement a plan to address inequities. Listen to the voices of all students. So, I mean, we can think that somebody is not an underserved group, but it depends on where we're coming from. So we need to take a look at who are our underserved populations. Take on the work of equity with all stakeholders. So it shouldn't be just a solo mission. As a teacher, as a educator at that particular school, everyone needs to combine together to actually figure out how to address these students who are being served, and then highlight diversity in special occasions, and then continue to support through effective daily practices. So, we want to highlight the special occasions, but then want to, we also want to support them through daily activities. And don't assume that your students have the skills needed to show equitable behaviors that we're seeking. We have to teach these behaviors. I mean, because people are coming from all different types of backgrounds with stereotypes. And it's important for us to make sure that we teach them how to address these skills so that they respect each other and continue on with the practice. We have to work to break down barriers to equity. That takes purposeful planning, collaborating, and involving all stakeholders in order to be effective. And we need to start um, where you are, but with a team. I mean, we need to identify where are we in this process of equity and inclusion, and build a team around that. And we should work first with those who are invested and wait for the change to spread before breaking down the most difficult barriers. And then intentionality leads to success. So with intention, we can't just put a group together and say we're trying to address equity and inclusion and meet the needs of our underserved population, and just kind of put a team together to just say that we have a team. We have to really have intention and purpose in order to make a change, and enhance the work of equity. In chapter 8, the book focused a lot about specific scenarios. And in those specific scenarios, it gave you some food for thought and things to think about. But I'm going to, just talk about equality and in education and what it means. I mean, so what does equity mean in education? It's the pursuit of creating educational systems that cater to students of all kinds and develop their educational experiences accordingly. And this means that no matter what the student's background, language, race, economic profile, gender, learning capability, disability, or family history, each student has the opportunity to get the support and resources they need to achieve their educational goal. So that we want to keep this in mind as we're thinking about what's the difference between equity and equality. So, equality focuses on ensuring students are present with the same educational opportunities. We've seen this, like for instance, the SAT, it's always been a timed test. But for those students with ADHD, or that tend to have attention needs, or an inability to focus, that timed test tends to distract them, and it doesn't show their true worth and what they are capable of doing on that particular time test. So with some extra time, maybe they're able to perform at a better rate. So we always thought that giving that time test made it equitable for all students, but we failed to realize that all students aren't able to focus their attention within that time frame and to give their best effort. And then we determined that because you couldn't do it in that time frame, that you weren't as smart as, or as, you know, and you may have been able to outscore some of the others without that time constraint on you. So we also want to talk about equity focuses on taking those opportunities presented to students and infusing them with supports and resources to turn to the educational system and into a level playing field. So this means that the disadvantaged students will get the support they need to become equal to the students who are not disadvantaged. It takes equity a step further by lifting students who may not have the same opportunities and ensuring that they not only are presented with those same opportunities, but that the differences are made up for those. And I have a couple of pictures for you at the end. So why is equity important? It creates opportunities for underprivileged and underserved students. It's giving everyone a chance to learn in the best way that supports their learning styles. It helps the students become more engaged in what they're learning by ensuring they see people who are their same race, gender, ethnicity, etc. in their learning. So we want to create opportunities where we have books and studies that and embrace all of these different ethnicities. It grants students more access to their resources. It strengthens the connection between the students' families and their teachers, fostering a more enriching educational environment at home. It guides students to success in their educational careers and beyond. It closes the opportunity and achievement gap by making students equal. It improves the student's district's performance in metrics, and such as standardized testing, and it creates an overall economic benefit by preparing students to become contributors to society and saving money on public schools. So we want to promote equity by addressing systemic issues, addressing the role of leaderships and administrators. If our leadership and our administration is part of the systemic issue, then we need to make sure that we address that as well. We need to remove the barriers in school environment, and we need to address the role of technology. Technology is super important in today's society, so it's crucial that the student's educational program that the student also has access to the technology. So they need reliable internet and computers that can be supported in their home so that they can continue their studies. And by providing this access to reliable technology through the schools, we'll be able to make sure that our students that don't have those abilities are getting an equitable education. Um, and regular assessment of student performance, monitoring students' performance is an important part of the process, and it shows where the teacher's equitable approach is effective and where there's room for improvement. So here are a couple, so 5 ways to interrupt stereotypes and racisms. Think about interruptions interruptions um, that they happen all the time. And just walking into a kindergarten classroom, to interrupt racism and stereotypes, we need to interrupt the everyday, every lesson, and every contact. So we need to keep data disaggregated for race, be open to the idea that change is needed. So we just need to remind ourselves that change is needed and hold yourself and others accountable. Consistently include issues related to race. No, we're just sweeping it under the rug, not discussing it because it makes you uncomfortable. This is the part where we need to be open, and we don't have all the answers, but we're going to feel uncomfortable. And if we feel uncomfortable, just reflecting, I did feel uncomfortable. Why did I feel uncomfortable? How can I change that? What can I do next time? Practice your interruptions, speaking even when your voice is shaking. So when you hear something that's not okay, say something, and don't just let it go. Knowing your resources in your community and literature, the media, will help to ignite change, and checking yourself. Okay. So we've seen this picture many times, how the difference between equality and equity. Equity is giving them those resources that they need. As we can see, when everybody had one box, they still couldn't see the field. But when we made it so that the person needed 2 boxes, and one person needed 1 box, and one person didn't need a thing, then they were able to see the field. Same with this, reaching the board. Okay, when we gave everybody 1 box, some people still couldn't reach the board. Some people still couldn't access the curriculum, still couldn't share their answers. This is important in the classroom. We're sharing our answers, coming up to the board, wanting to show what we've learned. But when we gave, multiple boxes, and then 1 box and then the other, everyone was able to equally share their answer. All right. Thank you so much. This is chapter 7 and 8 for the week. For week 4, you also have your assignments that are due for the week. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Thank you.